up, everybody? Oh, man. What am I supposed to do after that? That was incredible, Heather. Incredible. I have a couple notes because before I actually get into my talk, there's a few things people said today that I want to make sure I reinforce. One is, Leo, I think you mentioned we need space for indoor soccer in our community, and we absolutely do. Winters are a grind in South Dakota. And so if there's a seed I could plant today, if there's anybody who has a business or wants to get involved in the community, our park system is groomed off public-private partnerships. And I'm being totally serious. I would love to see us work together as a community to build an indoor soccer facility for some of the kids who need it. So if you feel called to work on something like that, specifically help fund something like that, I think there's some momentum there. Second thing was, you hear the theme of mentorship? How many times does mentorship come up? I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. It's not just happenstance that's a theme in all these things. The third, these guys don't know I'm going to do this, but everybody talks about the impact that LOT has had. By show of hands, who's an LOT grad in the room? A lot of LOT grads. That program relies on funding because the program is at no cost to the participant, right? And so I would love for you to support that program with corporate gifts, with personal gifts, because I see the impact it's having in this community, and it's been really incredible and cool to see. And the last thing is, can you believe that all these people up here are just local Joe Schmoes? I mean, you travel all over to conferences to hear speakers and what incredible talent we have in this city, huh? It's so cool. I'm so humbled to be up here today to talk about a topic that I'm very passionate about, and that's the topic of relationships, okay? It's hard to follow Heather's story, okay? And Heather is absolutely a hugger, by the way. You should have seen the bear hug I got back behind the stage. She is such a great lady. But at the crux of almost every talk you heard today is relationships. And I want to go deeper on the topic of relationships than maybe you've historically heard talks about or read about. You know, the last several years, and again, by way of background, I became a mayor in 2018, and like everybody else on this stage, never thought I'd be up here either as a mayor. Became mayor in 2018, and we had 2018 to 2020, which was pretty good living if we think back. And then we have 2020 to today, which has been a totally different story, okay? I've heard it described as CPR. We've had CPR the last 2 years. We've had COVID, we've had political unrest, and we've had racial unrest. All that really came about in 2020 with the pandemic, with a crazy, crazy partisan, rhetoric-filled presidential election, with George Floyd's murder, and all that came from that. We've been living with the hangover of that. And what's suffered from that for a lot of people has been their relationships. I've seen a lot of relationships suffer. I've had a lot of my own relationships suffer as a result of CPR. So as I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about here, and again, I want to thank Tammy and Vonnie, all the Think 3D people, for letting me come up here. I did some research on relationships and came across this very recent study by the American Perspective Survey that had some interesting findings. This one, 22% of Americans say it's been at least 5 years since they made a new friend. 5 years, a quarter of Americans say it's been 5 years since they made a new friend. Roughly half of Americans report having 3 or fewer close friends. Now, what do you define as a close friend? For me, The test I always use is if I get home today and the suitcase is on the front porch and my wife's like, we're done. Which I hope that doesn't happen because I married way up. But who would I call? Who would I call and that's the situation I walked home to today. The list gets short really quickly. I have a lot of friends, but I'm talking friends, okay? And when you think about who you have in your life, it's probably about the same. It even is for me. I have a lot of transactional friends, but who would I call in that situation? Roughly half of you women have told a friend you love them within the past week, okay? It's Captain Obvious here saying that women are better at this than men. Any guesses on how many men have done this in the past week? It's 25%. Give us a little credit. So men right now, turn to a man at your table, tell him you love him. I mean it. Go. And I will say, I love Moses. Moses, I love you. He is such a good guy. I've gotten to know Moses over the years. That guy has a heart like a lion. Great dude. Strong blazer game too. Always got the best blazers. So if I had to ask why you're here today, this is going to be interactive, so you're going to wish you hadn't sat here. Why did you come today to CultureCon? Why did you take off work? I see a lot of entrepreneurs here. You're missing the opportunity to hustle, make money. I know, hustle, Manny, sorry, that was a bad word. He said, don't say hustle, but you work hard. I'll pick on this guy with the nice hair. Why did you come here today? To better work relationships. James?
Because I was asked to.
He said because he was asked to. What's a better answer? Why would you come here?
You have to ask if you want something to happen, right? Just like in fundraising. If you never ask, you'll never get a yes or a no. So I was asked to. It made sense. I wanted to learn. They were great speakers.
It made sense. He wanted to learn. They're great speakers. Tyler, why'd you come here today, man? Feed my mind, okay? Feed my mind. If you all think about reasons that you maybe came here today, chances are at the center of a lot of that is you wanted to be a better person. You wanted to improve who you are. You wanted to feed your mind. You wanted to build relationships. You wanted to build relationships with your coworkers and your colleagues. So a lot of times when people say, hey, I want to improve myself, I want to become a better person, we go to the standard ways that we improve ourselves. Books, podcasts, I'll talk about that in a minute. But to me, one of the most powerful ways you can better yourself is by developing what I call, and I've heard talked about, as sway, okay? When I say the word sway, that's got kind of a personification of swagger, sway, you influence. The definition of that, the ability to exercise influence or authority, to exert a guiding or controlling influence. Relationship sway. We all want to have relationship sway, leadership sway. A leader without followers is just taking a walk, okay? How do you get that relationship sway in your life? Well, if you want to make yourself better, this is what we default to. Read books, which is fine. Listen to podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Maybe go back to school. Okay? You want to better yourself? Further your education. Totally good. Okay? How about join a board? Get involved in your community. Great. Great way to further your career. Polish your LinkedIn profile. I'm a big LinkedIn guy. I think it's a great professional tool. Make sure you have a good LinkedIn profile. But those aren't the ways that you grow as a person in my book that are most important. The most important thing you can do is to develop that relationship sway. So I'm going to talk about 3 ways that you can do that. Relationship sway tip number 1 is this. Common leaders are focused on solving problems, but the great leaders are focused on growing relationships. Okay? I'm going to say that again. Common leaders are focused on solving problems, but the greatest leaders that you know, their focus is growing relationships. CEOs, executives, they're not focused on the problems. They're focused on the relationships because those relationships are who's going to solve the problems, right? They got people for that, right? They have to build and grow their relationships. Some people, some different groups that I've had a chance to get to know, come in contact with through CPR. I'll specifically call out Mike over here, Mike Haskett. Great dude here in Sioux Falls, runs a very successful restaurant. He's a great chef. Mike and I about as politically opposite as you can get, which is fine. He's still a great guy. We still love Sioux Falls. We still want to be good dads. We still love this community. Right? But I want you to think of some of the best leaders that you've ever worked with. Picture someone in your mind right now when I say, who's a great leader that you admire? Either it's someone you've worked with or someone you've worked with from afar you've admired. Think of that person, okay? And now, why did you think of that person? What's the characteristic that made you think of that person? Why did you think of that characteristic in that person? What is that? Pick on you. Joel. Don't say the name of the person, just what's the characteristic that you appreciate about them, him or her?
Yeah, they were someone that challenged me, but also encouraged me and supported me when I needed them the most.
They challenged you, but they encouraged you, and they supported you. What about you, young man?
I would say lead by example. Like they don't ask me to do anything that they aren't willing to do.
They led by example. They would never ask you to do something that they would not do themselves. I think a key theme, if you think about who you were thinking of and the qualification that they had, a lot of times there's a relational aspect to that. You may say, dude, they were just wicked smart. They could solve any problem that came up, so I respect them. That's fine, that's good, that's important. But chances are it's like they had empathy, they made me feel welcome and inviting, they had a confidence about them, they were great with people, they were great leaders, because they were great relationship builders. I had one guy, the late Randy Reese, who was a very influential guy in my life, passed away too early. He would talk about being world-class people noticers. That was his thing. He could walk into a room and just like, he could pick out the person in the room like, something's off on that person. I need to go get to know them. I need to get to know their story. I need to show some love to that person. And he talked about, Paul, how can you become a world-class people noticer? Like, what a great compliment that would be if I would say, man, you are a world-class people noticer. That'd be a great compliment. But how do you not grow relationships? I'm going to give you one way you don't grow relationships. On the internet, online, on social media. My background, for those of you who don't know, I started a company called ClickRain in 2008. And we started in 2008 because Obama had just won the White House, and he used digital technology, social media, like no political candidate had ever done. People were like, whoa, this dude used digital to really win the White House. And I saw this kind of tsunami coming of this social media thing. Twitter was new. Facebook wasn't a thing yet for everybody. My first client, I built a MySpace page for his congressional campaign. So some of the young people are like this right now. Some of the OGs are laughing. So it pains me to say that in the 12, 15 years since I started that business, I've seen the vitriolic effects of what started out as such a great, promising platform and medium. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot good with social media. It's great. But I tell you, I've seen it destroy relationships the last couple years. Okay? I've seen it destroy relationships. And I always have to tell myself, and I share this advice with others, you need to speak to people in a way that you'd be satisfied with how you spoke to them if they were to die today. And that means not just with your mouth. is with what you type, with what you post, with what you comment on. Okay? I'd be lying if I said the last couple years has not been just online's a tough place for me to go. But I try to use social media to communicate, to build relationships, to keep people informed. I want to talk about sway tip number 2. I was just talking outside the doors during the break with Terry Liggins about this concept of relationships that develop at the speed of trust, okay? I sometimes make a joke that we move at the speed of government. That's a joke because we move slow. The speed of trust is even slower, okay? The speed of trust is slow. You cannot force the speed of trust. What do I mean by that? I had a guy that I worked with once, great dude, but his default position with relationships was, I don't trust anybody, you need to earn my trust, okay? Well, my default position is, I trust everybody. I trust you all. I love you all. I trust everybody. Now, you can break that trust, but you all have it by default. So you have to realize that when you're trying to build relationships with people, people come from that level of trust from very different places. And I had to realize that this guy had a way different experience in life than I had. I didn't have some of the pains and issues and challenges that he had. So his trust barrier was high. And as much as I wanted to just have this great relationship with him, I'm like, this is just going to take time. We're just going to have to move at the speed of trust on this. And trust is a two-way street. You can't force it. I can't go to this table and say, hey, you can trust me. I'm a good dude. Let's talk. No, she's got to want to reciprocate that. And that takes time. A couple of the ways that we build trust in this community is through communicating. Talking is not communicating, okay? A lot of good talkers. I'm maybe one of them. Sometimes I'm not a great communicator. Talking is not communicating. Listening is important, but hearing is not listening, okay? Hearing, I can go and hear someone talk to me, but am I really listening? Let me give you a pet peeve of mine. I get asked to go out to coffees a lot, okay? Or people come meet in my office, or we meet at a restaurant. And they're talking to me, and they're locked in, like me and this guy right here, and we're talking, and the door opens, and what does his eyes do? Who just came in the door? Oh, hey, it's like, dude, are you really hearing me right now? Give people your attention, okay? That is listening. So if you think of some of the strongest relationships you have, trust is at the center. Another relationship I'll highlight here, Julian. Again, Julian and I, very, very different politically. We have very, very different worldviews on a lot of things, but would I consider him a friend? For sure, I would. Yeah. Because I've learned a lot from him. We have developed a trust with one another. Now, are you ever going to see a Julian Paul ticket for politics? Probably never. Okay? Unless he learns to get, no, I'm just kidding. But the point is, trust him. His heart's in a great spot. He's a great family man. I have a lot of trust and respect for that guy. My third tip to develop relationship sway is just to remember this. You got to remember this in all your relationships that you're trying to build, is that your impact on this earth, your legacy, and I hate the L word because it sounds very narcissistic, but your legacy is going to be defined by your relationships. So let me give you a real example of that. This is the interactive part of the presentation. I need you all to stand up. Everybody stand up at your table. Okay. And we're going to do a little legacy exercise. So stay standing if you know the first name of your grandma. Either grandma. You all better stay standing, or we have big mouths. Okay. All right, stay standing if you know the first name of your great-grandma. Okay. A couple dropped. Stay standing if you know the first name of your great-great-grandma. Think, great-great-grandma. Okay. We lost, the rest of you can sit down. We lost about, I'd say, 3/4 of the room on great-great-grandma. Here's the point of that little exercise. If you think about that, the 3/4 of you sat down, you are 2-ish to 3 generations away from being totally forgotten. That's my talk, you guys. Have a good night. But I know it's heavy to think about, but that's true. You don't even know the name of your great-great-grandma. So if you think your legacy is going to be defined by your LinkedIn profile or the amazing stuff you're doing at work, okay, it's not. Okay? Your life is but a speck. It is brief. Your time on this earth is brief. So what will live on is the relationships that you pass down, okay? And one of the best ways to do that, I'm so glad this theme has come up multiple times, is mentorship. And I know that word gets watered down. But what makes Sioux Falls such a great city and a great community is that we recognize people who need help, who need a hand up, who need the elevator sent back down, as I like to say, and we help them. And man, there is 500-600 people in this room. Oh, the power in this room right now could transform a city. And I'm not it's not hyperbole. I'm not exaggerating. Okay? I got a letter last month from a dude up at the pen. It says, Paul, Mayor. He says, Mayor, I'm getting out of jail in July of 2023. I won't have a place to live. I won't have a job. I've been incarcerated most of my life. I have no skills. I need you to help me, because if you don't, I'm gonna wind up right back here. He's pleading for help, okay? He's got a year, and he knows it. So he's recognized that. He's like, I got a year yet to get in the right spot, or I know where I'm gonna end up. So he knows it. So who's willing to put up their hand and say, dude, I'm gonna take on this guy. And he's a bad dude. He's been in jail for most of his life for a reason. He's not a choir boy. But he is gonna get out. Whether you like it or not, he's gonna get out, and he's gonna be in our community. We need programs, but more importantly, we need people who are willing to build a relationship with this guy. Leave a legacy on his life. I talk a lot about your LinkedIn self, which I talk about, versus your eulogized self. So if there's kind of one theme I want you to leave, it's that. Just think about that today. Think about your LinkedIn self versus your eulogized self. So if I pass away today, I'm having a bad day. My wife left me, now I might pass away. If I pass away today, some of you are like, hey, I'm gonna pay my respects to Paul, go to the funeral home. What would you say? How would I be eulogized? Would you be like, man, he got 5G to Sioux Falls. That was really cool. I'm really proud of him for that. You know, he was a mayor. Wow, that was really cool. No. Would I want them just to print out my LinkedIn profile and read that? Of course not. I hope there's nothing about that in my eulogy. I hope it's about people and love and impact and community. That's how I would want to be eulogized. So everyone in this room, you have relationship influence, okay? You have people in your life that you have the ability to have sway with and relational sway with. The question is whether it's positive or negative. We all have influence. It's whether that's a positive influence or negative influence. Online, in your work, the way you treat people, the way you interact with your community. So I want to close with this, and then we're going to do one last little exercise. I love this quote. The best way to build relationship sway with people is connect with their heart, okay? We really try to impress people with our strengths and how we dress and our LinkedIn profile, but we connect in our weaknesses, in our vulnerabilities. That's where you really connect with people. So you want to connect with that guy at the pen who's in a very weak position? That's an incredible person to connect with, because you connect with people in their weaknesses, not in their strengths, not when they're at their best, but when they're at their worst. So what I'm going to do is this in the last couple minutes. Can you bring the house lights up a little bit? I don't know if that sounds like a very Justin Bieber thing to say, but can you do that? So I want you to just look around where you're sitting. I want you to take out your phone. I want you to go take a picture with someone who you have no idea who they are, okay? Introduce yourself, and then you're going to post it on your Instagram or social media, and we're going to fill it with positivity with the hashtag relationship sway. So you're like, practicing my relationship sway, building my relationship sway. So go do that right now. Find someone you don't know. It's got to be someone you don't know. All right, let's bring it back for the last couple minutes. So fun to see this from up here. Oh, this is cool. I think we're going to have some good lunch discussions. I'm glad you all had a collision there with someone you've never met before. I would encourage you to continue that relationship building exercise when you move into lunch. Sit with the person you just took a selfie with, get to know them, get to know their story, connect in your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities. So in closing, guys, you maybe thought, what's the mayor going to talk about, man? Potholes and like city and crime and all this stuff. The only reason I am in this chair is because I love people, man. I love serving people. I love this city. I love the energy in this room and the ideas and the people that are here. And my encouragement to you would be this: just don't be afraid to be vulnerable, to be real, to be curious with people who are unlike you, who are different, who can make this community better, and to use that to build your own relationship sway. So my name's Paul TenHaken. I'm very honored to serve you as your mayor, and I wish you a blessed rest of your day. Thank you.